अस्सलाम वालेकुम। मेरा नाम राय नज़र है और आप देख रहे हैं मेरा वीलॉग जिसका नाम है RNH स्पॉटलाइट। दुनिया का एक अजीम न्यूज़पेपर है जिसका नाम है द न्यूयॉर्क टाइम्स। इसमें आज एक मजमून छपा है जो इनके मारूफ राइटर रॉजर रोजनब्लैट का है। ये एक मशहूर मुसन्निफ हैं और इन्होंने अमेरिका में हालिया इलेक्शन हुए हैं उसके मुतालिक अपना एक लिटरेरी अंदाज में पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू पेश किया है। मैंने कहा मैं अपने चंद दोस्तों के साथ उसको शेयर करता हूँ। कौन है इन दिस ईरा गुड राइटिंग is more essential than ever. Roger Rosenblatt. When I awoke to the news that Donald Trump had been elected president once again, my first impulse was to write. This is not unusual for me. I have been writing my way through difficult times for more than 60 years. It's what I did after the civil rights battles of the 1960s. The Vietnam War, the September 11 attacks, and at the start of the pandemic. At moments of crisis and historical upheaval, it's easy to doubt that good writing can possibly help fix many ills of the world. But whenever I've found myself lost in anger or anguish or confusion, the answer for how I could get through it was the same. Put pen to paper. In my experience, good writing requires 4 things. Precision of language, the freedom to say anything, respect, and perhaps more important, love. The responsibilities of the writer today are no different from those of any writers in any age. But the presence, character, and now considerable power of President-elect Trump make the work of fulfilling those responsibilities all the more difficult and urgent. Precision, freedom, respect, and love. These qualities are sorely missing in Mr. Trump and his vision for our country. His Make America Great Again slogan, for instance, is deliberately imprecise. What does great mean? Anyway, richer, more powerful? How about more compassionate? I doubt it. Freedom? He has indicated outright contempt for the democratic system and proposed rolling back freedoms of all kinds. From a woman's freedom to make decisions about her body, to an immigrant's freedom to pursue the American dream. Respect? His racial inserts speak for themselves. Love? Yeah, right. The only love he shows is for himself. With a character like Mr. Trump in charge of our country, it is all the more important that we as citizens demonstrate these qualities ourselves, and that we as writers exhibit them in our work. But how to do it? Start with precision. As Mark Twain put it, the difference between the almost right word and the right word is the difference between the lightning bug and lightning. The simple reason precision is essential in writing is that it allows both writer and reader a clear, shared understanding. Often this comes down to finding the correct noun. Emerson called nouns the speaking language of things. A good rule of thumb is that if you need 3 adjectives to describe something, you have something wrong. One must be precise in all facets of writing. One should choose anticipation over surprise. Surprise can be exciting, but it's cheap thrill. Many of the best words of literature get along just fine without it. From the first lines of Hamlet, we know that the prince is going to bite the dust. Yet we watch the play again and again to see how his life leads to its inevitable end. On freedom, the writer depends on total freedom to write what she wants to write, what he wants to write, say what she wants to say what he wants to say, in any form of his or her choosing. Freedom is what gives the writer power, or, as Václav Havel put it, the power of the powerless. The basic freedom is to tell any story any way one wishes. The story of the poem, the story of the essay, the novel or novella or play. Whatever its form, the story is of supreme importance to the writer. We are a narrative species, after all. We all like to dignify ourselves as a rational species, but given much of human behavior, that is more of a bitter joke. A narrative species we are. The Jews in the last days of Warsaw Ghetto knew they were doomed to diphtheria or to the extermination camps. Yet they wrote poems and stories and letters and rolled them into scrolls and slipped them into the crevices of the ghetto walls. They knew that if their writing was discovered by the Nazi soldiers, it would be derided and destroyed. That made no difference. They had a story to tell. They had to tell a story, and they seized what little freedom they had to do so. On respect, in the Middlemarch, George Eliot respected the single-minded, unfeeling Edward Cockburn even as he condemned his cruelty to Dorothea. Fitzgerald respected J. Gatsby's obsession even as it brought Gatsby to his fall. An author respects all his characters because he recognizes that we are all flawed and that everybody fails. He also respects all points of view, even the most abhorrent. Writers are representatives of all humanity and thus are obliged to treat every person, idea, and image fairly and honorably. Even a figure like Mr. Trump, who many, including myself, disagree with wholeheartedly, must to a writer be a figure of curiosity and even empathy. In James Joyce's short story Clay, the character Joe is an insincere, stupid, dangerous lout. Yet it is to Joe that Joyce gives the epiphany of tears. And finally, love. The love of one's characters, of one's language, of one's thoughts and images, of one's readers, and of the world. Instead of viewing the world as a competitive playing field, the writer sees the world as a vast collection of people, all of whom share the same sense of wonder, the same fears and dreams, and the same griefs. The writer understands that everyone she or he meets is carrying a heavy burden. The writer feels that burden is medicine in Wisconsin, San Diego, Chile, and in Moscow and Beijing, and loves all who bear it. So we come around to Mr. Trump again, and the atmosphere he is likely to foster. No precision of thought, of language, limited freedom, especially for women. No respect for anyone or anything really, no love for self-love. Can writers survive, even thrive in such an atmosphere? We'd better. For that to happen, the idea of love must include the American people. All the people, not just those who voted for Kamala Harris. Whatever accounts for Mr. Trump's victory, the fact is that his candidacy appealed to millions. It is the writer's business and obligation to understand that appeal and to prod what the essayist H.L. Mackinnon called our innermost soul and try to meet that soul with love. Roger Rosenblatt, top writer of the New York Times. This is what he says, how writers should behave in these trying times. My name is Rai Nazarayab. This was my vlog by the name of RNH Spotlight. Khuda Hafiz.